These are 8 phrases Italian beginners get mixed up all the time, and I've helped my students to fix these errors. Today I'm going to do the same for you with the help of these beautiful visuals that I've created so that you can speak Italian more confidently. Let's get started. Allora, first up is buono versus bene. Many beginners struggle with the difference between buono and bene because they both translate to good or well in English. The key distinction really lies in their function. Buono is an adjective, which is a word that describes nouns or things, objects, while bene is an adverb, modifying verbs, which are actions. For example, il cibo è buono uses buono to describe cibo, or food, whereas parlo italiano bene uses bene because it modifies the verb parlare, meaning to speak. It tells you how you spoke well. A simple way to remember this is that buono works like good and bene works like well. Next up is molto versus molti or molte, meaning many. Now the word molto can be tricky because it changes form depending on how it's actually used. When it's modifying adjectives or verbs, which are describing words or actions, molto remains unchanged. For example, sono molto felice, I am very happy. Or studio molto, I study a lot. However, when it modifies a noun, it has to agree in gender and number. So the ending actually needs to change to match the number of things that you're talking about. So it becomes molti for masculine plural nouns and molte for feminine plural nouns as well. A very common mistake is to say molto persone instead of molte persone because beginners forget this rule. Now, conoscere and sapere. Both conoscere and sapere translate to knowing or to know, but their uses are distinct. Now, conoscere refers to familiarity with people, places, or things. For example, conosco Maria or conosco bene Roma. Again, an example of how we're using bene. On the other hand, sapere is used when talking about knowing facts or when you know how to do something, like so dov'è il museo, or sai nuotare. It's kind of more like, are you able to, or do you know how? If you're unsure which verb is which, then ask yourself whether the knowledge is about a fact or a skill, or more about a personal acquaintance with a place or a person. Now, chiedere versus domandare. Both of these mean to ask, but they're actually used quite differently. Chiedere is used when you're requesting something, such as chiedo un favore, or for example, gli ho chiesto aiuto. In contrast, domandare is actually used when asking a question, such as le ho domandato l'ora, or domando perché. A simple rule to remember this one is that chiedere is used when asking for an object or action, and domandare is used when asking for information specifically. Okay, very famous one, essere versus stare. Now, English speakers very often mix these up because both of them mean to be. However, essere is used for permanent states, identities, and descriptions. For example, sono inglese or sono felice. Stare, on the other hand, is used for more temporary states or locations. For example, sto bene, is kind of I'm feeling well right now, or stiamo in albergo, we're in a hotel right now. If you're describing something temporary, like how you feel or where you are, use stare. But if it's more permanent or an essential trait, use essere. Okay, then we have c'è and ci sono. Now, one of the most frequent beginner mistakes has to be using c'è with plural nouns. C'è is only used for singular nouns, as in c'è un problema. However, for plural nouns, you must use ci sono, as in ci sono molte persone. Saying c'è molte persone instead of ci sono molte persone is a common mistake because English doesn't really make that distinction. Okay, attendere and aspettare. Now, many learners, typically assume that attendere means to attend, but really it means more to wait in a formal sense. If you're in a professional setting or you're reading an official sign, anything like this, you might see something like Attenda un momento, per favore. But in everyday conversation, this doesn't really come up. It's a bit too much. You typically say aspettare. It's what Italians prefer, as in aspetto l'autobus. I'm waiting for the bus. So if you want to sound more natural, stick with aspettare in most situations that aren't really formal. Now, saving last for last, we have ultimo and prossimo. So a common mistake is using ultimo when talking about future events. Ultimo actually means last in the sense of final or previous. So if you said l'ultima settimana, it means last week, as in the most recent one. Prossimo, on the other hand, means next, and that's the one we use for future events. For example, la prossima settimana. So if you're referring to something that's already happened, use ultimo, but if it's up and coming, then use prossimo. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn some Italian vocabulary, check out these videos here.